way I like to introduce again students is through this workshop. I introduce them through sonnets. Since y'all are teachers, this is going to be like a format. I'm going to take y'all through the workshop. Few activities that I that I have. I'm going to share with y'all that hopefully you can participate. And if you have any questions, feel free to either raise your hands or reach out in the chat. This is, just I like to teach my put my class again like a forum to give them the opportunity to share their thoughts. Um, so same with this. I mean, also I feel with teaching, and this is with Shakespeare with math. This is the reason why I know it works with Shakespeare. It's just you gotta be innovative and be able to break away from script. Um, in the words of hip hop, you gotta learn how to freestyle. So, yeah, try to mold, lessons based on since I get brought in as a guest artist, I'm able to mold my lesson plans into what the teacher is working on. So if you have any questions based on, if you're working on like a certain play or, um, yeah, Shakespeare, non-Shakespeare, feel free to reach out. Feel free to cut me off and let me know. Yeah, we're going through the workshop. I'm gonna share a screen of a worksheet from the sonnet writing activity that I bring with students, and we're gonna possibly do a sonnet here. I'm gonna show you how to do collaborative work, how to get students to break down Shakespeare. It's part of the reason why I like doing this writing workshop is um, just like how I got my students to write, raps about fractions. They have to do the research in order to make sure that their raps or what they're putting on, it doesn't just because I mean, the words has to make sense. So they have to do their due diligence, their research to make sure it is the context is right. The same works for all subjects, and I see it works for Shakespeare too. That as a silent man, I take Shakespeare verbatim, put it to a beat as if Shakespeare was a rapper, and then I modernize it, bridging the gap from the late 1500s, 1600s to 2021, from Stratford upon Avon to Brooklyn to a town near you, and these workshops, I get them to do their own adaptation of the play, and again, just like I said, if you can take Hamlet and able to translate that into The Lion King and make it understandable for youth and still have the same plot. I mean, we know the ending is different, uh, but it still has like the same plot. Or take Romeo and Juliet and connect it to the West Side Story, or there's so many different adaptations that there's different ways that students can find an understanding for Shakespeare, and also find a love. So my goal when using hip hop and using creative arts for education is collaboration. Um, so, any questions? Are y'all familiar with Shakespeare sonnets?
Oh, one or
So,
two.
one or two. Um, I, I think a good thing also with this is with sonnets, whether you're familiar with it or not. I think the connection I have with students, another reason why I'm able to connect students with science is I'm still a student myself, always doing research with Shakespeare. So, and again, when I say I treat my class like an open forum, it's like, you know, I welcome all opinions and I ask them all opinions. So I'm about to share the screen, and if you would like to, I like to get my students to recite Shakespeare. Shakespeare's meant to be seen, meant to be heard. He wrote plays. He didn't write novels, and to get it to, and I think it gives the students a different meaning to hear it from themselves or their fellow students. So I'm going to share the screen, and Where is it? Oh, here we go. And if you would, I'm going to talk about Sonnet 130. We're actually going to share 130. If you would like to read Sonnet, help me out reading Sonnet 130, please let me know through the chat. Um, do you see this share screen? Is it there? For real? Oh, I can't see it.
Yeah, it's there, Devon. You're good.
Okay. So, during my workshop, I, talk about a little bit about the Elizabethan style writing and, in Shakespeare's era. And this is, just a fun exercise for just to get them in tune with how Shakespeare writes. And this will be one of my first activities, which we can do. This will be while while we're discussing this sonnet. One thing I tell them about Shakespeare, because when I get introduced in a class and they know they're doing like a creative writing exercise and they know it's based on Shakespeare, and if they know how Shakespeare writes, sometimes you'll get some discouragement. One thing I say is if you know how to count your syllables, meaning if you know how to count to 10, and if I gave you a word and you could find a word that rhymes with it, you can write like Shakespeare. So one activity I like to do is if you can give me, this would be our icebreaker. I know we had an icebreaker earlier. This would be a writing icebreaker. If you could give me your introduction in 10 syllables. Extra credit is if you can give me a couplet, 2 lines with 10 syllables. Does everybody get that? So, and that would be, and I try to make it fun. Students like to get, some students like to get cheeky with it, introduce themselves, and a fun fact. Um, a writing ex, from my creative writing class, one of the tips I like to give them is, counting the syllables of your name. If you have a name with long syllables, this is a way you can shorten it, give yourself a nickname. If you have an alias, you can use that. If you have a term or idiom that you, or a special saying that the class knows, or that you can share that, um, because this is something that Shakespeare altered words to keep pace with the rhythm, with the iambic pentameter, to make sure a line had 10 syllables. This is one of the things I like to tell my the students. So I'll give you a couple of minutes for that. Can y'all still see the screen? Yes. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So um, this would be, the contents of an Elizabethan sonnet, um, would be the introduction of what I like to mention to students. I like to give them the iambic, the 10-step heartbeat, and there's so many different ways we can, if you want to introduce poetry, this would be a way of introducing poetry, introducing the iambic pentameter. Uh, on in this workshop, and if you like this worksheet, I will gladly email you this worksheet. I have two of his most famous sonnets out of 154, the numbered ones that he has, on the left side, which we will go through Sonnet 130 and Sonnet 18, and on the bottom right, the prologue, the first, when you first pick up Romeo and Juliet, it's the first thing that you see, the written in sonnet form, the summary of Romeo and Juliet. Another cool thing that I like, that I love about Shakespeare, is that he incorporated sonnets in his playwriting. Like when Romeo and Juliet first meet, which so crazy is all in Act One, uh, Scene 5. Romeo's already trying to kiss Juliet, but that his that conversation when they first meet in the dances in the sonnet, and that actually that scene right there, that duet can be used as an activity too, collaborative activity in classrooms. trying to put a conversation in sonnet form with group. If you would like to put students in groups, do we have any volunteers that would like to read Sonnet 130?
I'll read it.
You read it.
Right?
Thank you.
Okay, Sonnet 130. My mistress' eyes are nothing like the sun. Coral is far more red than her lips red. If snow be white, why then her breasts are dun. If hair be wires, black wires grow on her head. I have seen roses damasked, red and white, but no such roses see I in her cheeks, and in some perfumes is there more delight than in the breath that from my mistress reeks. I love to hear her speak, yet well I know that music hath a far more pleasing sound. I grant I never saw a goddess go. My mistress, when she walks, treads on the ground. And yet, by heaven, I think my love as rare as any belied with false compare.
So, one of his more famous sonnets. Thank you, thank you. Um, Appreciate it. Um, so now I like to get just nip this in the bud, just for the misinterpretation of this piece. First off, this is one of my favorite pieces that I like to share, and it's more of the research, not because of how it's saying, but this creates a great discussion with students, especially when breaking this sonnet down. Um, I like to tell students like the different words that Shakespeare like to create, and um, like distress, mistress, amazement, bedroom, disease, and also I tell them about words that might have had a different meaning than or the meaning has changed in today's time, like a word like fair. um, we don't really use fair to mean beauty now in today's times. So I use that to transition mistress to be a nickname for a significant other. You know, my lady, and it's for me to travel to be a traveler. I'll ask, in New York City, we'll call our significant other boo or bae, or what is the nickname that your significant other calls you? Poogie Bear, any, you'll get some clever names, right? So whenever you see mistress, you think of your boo, right? Now imagine your boo wrote this about you, or describing you about this. And one of the things, I'm sorry, I'm trying to shut down all these tabs. So now, if you now imagine, now I did this in for Valentine's Day with a class, and I was asking them if your boo said your eyes were nothing like the sun. Usually, for the most part, when students that are not that familiar with Shakespeare, or you may need a second read, and I'm talking about students of all ages. When reading Sonnet 130, as a whole, is like, what did he say? What does this mean? So imagine your boo wrote this for you. If your boo said your eyes are nothing like the sun, how would you feel? What do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing? Now, your students, they're still not sure. You'll have some students that like the sun, some students that don't like the sun. So if my eyes are nothing like the sun, they think is a good thing. The whole idea is just getting them to open up, getting them to like answer questions. That's the whole thing. And towards by the end of the lesson, hopefully they have their meaning. Because I tell them all these sonnets, they're love sonnets, but they all have different messages for love sonnets. Love for self, love for family. Love for being there. That the thank you letter. So there's so many different meanings, and this one has a message to it also. Coral is far more red than her lips red. You know, um, there's there's not enough red in coral, but coral has more red than her lips. What do you say about what is this says about what is he trying to say about your lips? What is your boo saying about your lips? Now, high schoolers, They'll say you're ashy, pale, but you want that. You want that comedy. That's why I like to start with comedy. The comedic effect works. So all right. So if your boo says your lips are pale or ashy, how would you feel? Okay. So you'll start driving students towards one way or the other. If snow be white, why then her breasts are done? Um, Now students may not know what the word done means, but they see a comparison, and you can ask them, does done sound good or done sound bad? You know, for me, usually that's New York slang. Done is a bad thing. You're done. You're finished. You look finished. And from my research, done is like a dullish. I tell them it's like a grayish brown color. I equate it to if you have sweaty armpits. If you're running with a white t-shirt, sweaty armpits. That is the hue of done. If your boo said that about you, how would you feel? And you'll get, oh, he's not. I'm gonna throw this card at him, or at her. I don't know. I'm not feeling it. So this is sort of the things that you like to, and you'll get to talk. You'll get them discussing this. If hairs be wires, black wires wrote on her head. And I tell them in Shakespeare's time, the ideal look was straight hair, thick. Straight hair was the ideal look. Any curls, any kinks wasn't the way to look. Shakespeare is saying you have black wires. His boo has black wires in her hair. Um, what, what would you think about that if your boo said that about you? You know, so the first quatrain, um, that would be the breakdown to say, okay, how do you feel? Now, lines 5 and line 6 go together, and if I'm rushing this, I can ask questions and y'all can let me know how to how you feel. Um, Lines 5. Oh yeah. In fact, lines 5 and line 6. Can somebody tell me? What is he trying to say about her cheeks? I have seen roses damask red and white, but no such roses see I in her cheeks. Anyone?
So, Devon, yes. Well, I think all of these nature images are examples of perfection. And
Mm-hmm.
like the roses, like the damask rose is the perfect combination of red and white,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not what he sees in her cheeks.
He doesn't see it
Doesn't see it. It
exactly.
ain't there.
To add on, I like to say, usually, you'll hear the ideal smile has a rosy smile. She doesn't have that shine when she smiles, that glow, a rosy smile, something like that, or as well. Um, I also line 7 and line 8. I like to simplify that. And in some perfumes is there more delight than in the breath that from my mistress reeks. Can we simplify that in like 5 words or less, 3 words or less? Or what do you think he's saying?
Her breath stinks.
Her breath
There's
stinks.
perfume, yeah.
She got hot breath.
Hot breath. uh, so now that's more than halfway through, and again, I'm just asking them, and you'll see, especially in the classroom, when discussing this in the classroom, especially high school, they're looking at each other like, they're, but it keeps their interest in it. It keeps it going. Um, Lines 9 and 10 go together. I love to hear her speak, yet well I know that music hath a far more pleasing sound. That music hath a far more pleasing sound. Now, this is one part where you can see where students are going, because you can see this, and as you can take it. He said, "I love to hear her speak," but then you can have some people that thinking he's saying my voice is annoying, shrill. So this is where you can actually, for me, this could be either a diss or he's showing different comparisons. Perfume's supposed to smell good, supposed to smell great. So of course your breath is not going to be like perfume. Music is the food of love, according to Shakespeare, right? So there's not many voices that are more soothing than music, but you can also take it as your voice is annoying. line. I love to hear her speak, yet well I know that music hath a far more pleasing sound. So, and the reason why I like I like working with this, with working with teenagers, they'll see it and go, oh, he's saying my voice is annoying. He's saying my breath stinks. He's saying, my mistress' eyes are nothing like the sun. When they think of, after comparing, oh my gosh, after comparing this to Sonnet 18, comparing to a sunny day, if my eyes are nothing like the sun, is he trying to say I'm ugly? You know? Um, so I grant I never saw a goddess go. Lines 11 and 12. I grant I never saw a goddess go. My mistress, when she walks, treads on the ground. So what do you think he's trying to say about his mistress there, or his boo, his bae there? Now, does she walk with grace? And I actually equate this to, if they see the love, I like to tell them, if they ever seen a movie where a character sees the love of their life, and the love of their life looks like they're floating on air, it looks like they're gliding on air. Well, this person doesn't have that glow. This person has two left feet. This person doesn't have the swagger, which is a word created by Shakespeare. Um, I like to include the slang that Shakespeare added into our our language. Um, so 12 out of 14 lines, and then again, after every 4 lines, I like, how would you feel now about, if this was your Valentine's Day card, if this was your Valentine's Day card of your boo talking about how much they love you, how would you feel so far? Because then the last 2 lines, and yet, however, like, even though I said all of this stuff right here, but I haven't. I think my love has rare. I still love my boo. I still love you. I still love you. As any she belied with false compare. So after, and while asking them questions, you know, I get their opinion, and I also give my opinion while they're discussing. Um, that's part of the thing. That's part of the thing that help. I believe help work for students that are not experienced with Shakespeare or don't feel confident with Shakespeare. That's why, again, why I keep saying, trying to turn it to like an open forum. It gives them more confidence to answer, and gives them more confidence to pick up a scene, pick up a soliloquy, and break down a soliloquy. Because I start with the sonnets. Today we start with sonnets. Tomorrow we're breaking down a soliloquy, right? So when I ask them these questions, how would they feel, and how would you feel if somebody wrote this to you guys? And while I'm checking the chat.
Yeah, without the couplet, I think it would be a deal breaker.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Yes, it would be. Let's say
But that's
points
what
to
he
emulate.
does, right? He starts with that first quatrain, sets you up, builds up on it, throws it a twist, and gives you that final couplet to teach you that lesson.
The lesson. So now I ask them what the lesson is. Now you get this with all students. I don't know. He's saying I'm ugly. He's dissing me. He's playing me. I don't know if I love this person. So if Shakespeare was to give you this love letter, 14 lines, and he's for 12 of these lines, he's talking about all the flaws that you have grown, that he has, that you have. Why is he still with you? Why what would make him stay with you? What would make him give you this love letter if he thinks of you this way? You know, so, and it makes them to think. And I ask them that to make them think. You'll get one person, two people, like maybe he's not worried about looks. What is he worried about? What traits could this person have? Then you'll get anything from personality. She cooks good. Maybe she has money. Shakespeare's not a 10. That's what you'll get that. Shakespeare's not a 10. Shakespeare has the gift of gab. Maybe she has the gift of gab. So, and part of the reason why I tell them, if you had 10 different Shakespeareans here, you have 10 different ways of, 10 different avenues of research. Um, I tell them my comparison to hip hop is, there's a subtle diss into this. There's a direct diss. Like, if you see him, if you take all these lines as him dissing his boo, he's directly dissing his boo. And this is like a bizarro version of a Petrarchan poem in Italy, and based in Italy. I believe it's Petrarch 292. That's the one that I have. It's like a Bizarro Pearl Sonnet 130, where they put their loves in the pedestal, and it seems like they were, you know, they were embellishing their beauty looks. My love's eyes are, you know, brighter than the brightest star. When she speaks, it's like music to my ears. Her breath smells like potpourri. This is not verbatim, but they it was better than every, you know, the highest, you know, possible thing, right? So Shakespeare for this is like, let me tell you about my boo. All right, you know, my boo has, you know, sometimes she has naughty hair, sometimes she, you know, sometimes she can use her makeup, sometimes, you know, her breath she can talk the other way, but I still love her, and that's where that line "she belied would false compare." These other poets make false comparisons. I'm giving you the real comparisons. The sun is bright. My mistress' eyes could never be as bright as the sun. You know, perfume is supposed to smell, you know, great. I know your breath is not going to smell great all the time. You know, my breath doesn't smell great all the time. So, I, and when I break it down like this, I'll get some kickback. I'll get some, you know, students. Nah, I still don't. Nah, the love is still gone if you give me that. You know, which is totally fine, but they still have an understanding to it, and this would be part of, you know, I would say the directing or making it your own. You know, when everybody is taking a Shakespearean piece or taking a piece and adapting it, they're putting it their own spin to it. So now, if we're writing this, a student may write a reaction like "I love you too, baby," and then announce that person's flaws in the same vein. Some person might do a breakup sonnet, you know, but that's part of a way of I do with breaking down Sonnet 130. So and also another thing I like to connect because they love social media. By they the students, Shakespeare's sonnet is like, this is my boo, hashtag no filter, right? This is my boo with authentic. Where I said I believe he was dissing the Petrarchan sonnets, the Petrarchan sonnets. They have filters. I believe it's Snapchat. You know, they put doggy ears and on their faces, and they put blush on their faces. They filter it up. So Shakespeare's saying, "This is my love, no filter." These people are embellishing their love. Now, any questions on that? So, am I still sharing the screen? I can
Yeah.
still see the screen. Yes. So my part of the reason why I like this part of the reason why I love Shakespeare's sonnets, with the exception of three of his numbered sonnets, they have each line is in iambic pentameter. So from the three sonnets that I have here, you can choose any of the lines that you like, and um, that line would be in 10 syllables. And also, um, whenever, especially when working with like beginners in Shakespeare, that's why I like working with students that haven't experienced any Shakespeare, because when they read Shakespeare for the first time, sometimes they would say a line like how we normally say it in our, you know, our normal lexicon. So somebody would say, "My mistress's eyes are nothing like the sun," or if they get to Coral is far more red than her lips red. Yeah, we wouldn't say Coral is far more red than her lips red. We would say that in another way. Or this is the line, but no such roses see I in her cheeks. Like, you know, some people get, you know, some people get tongue tied on that. But part of the reason why he that was written in that way was to keep the 10 step heartbeat. My mistress' eyes are nothing like the sun. Coral is far more red than her lips red. If snow be white, why then her breasts are done. So the fact that if you could say one line, each line in that same pattern, no matter this, you know, if I can say one line that fits in a contemporary beat, which is, you know, I would say something that loops around. And that's just a simplified, you know, as a musician, that's very simplified. But if you know, once you find a beat with a loop and you're able to put this one line in a speed or a pattern, if you could say every line in that same cadence, it makes it easy to transcribe to music. And the fact that it has a rhyme scheme to it, which if you see AB, my rhyme scheme, so lines 1 and lines 3 rhyme, and lines 2 and lines 4 rhyme. Now that's a complex way of rhyming. You know, a lot of rappers do couplet schemes where it's just each consecutive line rhyme, A, B, B, C, C, D, D. This is very complex, and as an MC, I love MCs that write like this. So each rhymes, you could break down a sonnet into 3 quatrains and 1 couplet. Quatrain is a verse with 4 lines, where the first and third line rhyme, and the second and fourth line rhyme. So that's where we get A B A B. Um, CD CD, that would be lines 5 and 7 matching, and lines 6 and 8 matching. Uh, this is the fact that each line the fact that each line, I mean, 151 of these sonnets have this pattern. This is one of the things I like to try to pique my students' interest, and again try to get them to vision themselves in Shakespeare's shoes, trying to pen one and pen a sonnet. And one of the options that can be done with this sonnet is, again, one, um, either writing their own adaptation, which I'm going to give you my version of Sonnet 130, or, sorry, I have no idea what keeps popping up. So give you my adaptations of Sonnet 130, or if they were to take one line and try to rewrite it in their own way. Um, so for the first verse, again, which I'm gonna put my verse, my beat on.
Powering
Um,
on. Welcome to all
you'll hear
technical
Shakespeare's
things.
words verbatim as if Shakespeare was a rapper. The second verse would be basically, my interpretation of what he is describing. And if you would like, because we would do this, we're going to do this with Sonnet 18 also. If you could take one line from Sonnet 130, take any line from Sonnet 130, or any phrase, whether if 2 lines go together, and rewrite it in your own way, in your own words. Like we simplified Sonnet line 7 and line 8 to say her breath stinks. That was a that was a great simplification. So, but if you were able to take one line, or take 2 lines and rewrite it in your own way, just in your own way, how would you say it? And it doesn't necessarily have to rhyme. This is like one of the first steps that I use when doing my interpretations. But you can think of that while I'm performing. I'm going to do Sonnet 130, and then I'm going to do, you'll hear Shakespeare's verse, then you hear my breakdown of what I think he means. And the third verse, since he repeated the word mistress in his, in the theme. I noticed that he likes to use alliteration, metaphors and similes, a lot of personification in his work to enhance his theme. I created a third verse with a school in Pennsylvania for their production that incorporates alliteration, describing why I would stay with my boo, mistress. My mistress. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna put this up. My mistress' eyes are nothing like the sun. Her robe is far more red than her lips red. And snowy white, why then her breasts are done? If hairs be wires, black wires were worn ahead. I have seen roses dim as red and white, but no such roses see I in her cheeks. And in some perfumes is there more delight than in the breath that of my mistress reeks. I love to hear her speak, yet well I know that music hath a far more pleasing sound. I grant I never saw regardless go. My mistress, when she walks, treads on the ground. And yet, by heaven, I think my love as rare as any sheep alive. false compare. And yet, by heaven, I think my love as rare as any sheep allied with false compare. Now, I got a chorus there. One of the reasons why I like to use Shakespeare's sonnets, I also like to use verses when I get students to do reciting it, because you're able to incorporate music and give them the option of reciting it. Just because it rhymes doesn't mean you have to rap it, but this format makes it easier to rap. So there's a breakdown. My mistress, misses, eliminate my stress. The list is endless. The reason she's my best. Her personality is perfect with my mindset. Unconditionally, her loving is priceless. While mine's is infinite, our love is limitless. She got a pretty face, got a few blemishes. Beauty mark movie star under the surface. She's worth it. It's the flaws that make her perfect. When she speaks, I know music has a sweeter tone. Sometimes she smells like she wants to be alone. It's me and her alone. She doesn't have the glow, but every time I vision her, I write another ode. Understood, misrepresented. The total package, the girl is heaven sent. She's never misleading. Take me out my misery. My mistress, my love for her is not a mystery. So, part of my breakdown, I said she smells like she wants to be alone. When she speaks, I know music has a sweeter tone, but that's sort of the way I would break down, some of these lines. I've done this workshop hundreds of times. There are thousands of different versions of how they would say it. It's all about making it, how this other student would interpret it. But they would also incorporate research while doing it, and it's incorporating some fun. So here's the third verse. My mistress, me, I am her mister, and she is my missus. When she's gone, I miss her. Make no mistakes with her, there are no mistrust or miscues with us. You can't misplace this love. I am on a mission to give her what she's missing. No misprint. Listen, I've gone the distance with my mistress thus far. That's cause she's never misused my heart. My mistress mismatch. What put together with her, there are no mishaps. A couple misfits passed, thought she was misfortune. Fitting that I picked my fortune while they missed on it. In the foreign eye, she seems disorganized. The public is quick to misjudge, and I get emotional when I talk about my missy. I'm not tearing, I just get a little misty. So, Sonnet 130. Thank you. So, again, part of that, two-thirds of the sonnet was what I wrote for just breaking down Shakespeare and my interpretation. The third verse was incorporated for students play, and we was getting them to write use alliteration, and just some repetition and refrain in their work, to make it fun. I get when students are diverse, I get them. I have a lot of musicians. I get a lot of musicians in my classrooms, and I just try to transcribe music, try to get them to find rhythm with the wording, rhythm with their wording. And when breaking down Sonnet 130, this is one of the things I like to do. All those questions is getting their opinions of what they think, because these Shakespearean sonnets he was writing to or about somebody. So I would tell them, if they're writing this to or about you, what would you know I try to get their opinion, as if they were in the subject's shoes. That kind of helps with the interaction and interest, gaining more interest in them studying. Any questions so far?
Hey, Devon, I've got a question.
Mhm.
In rap, when you establish a rhythm, do you have a name for those moments when you deliberately violate that rhythm? You deliberately break it and slow it down. Like if your basic rhythm is, say, a couple unstressed and one stressed, da 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 da. And then you reach a moment where you want emphasis and it becomes da 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 da, then back again, da da da, then it opens up again. Do you have a name for that, or is it a thing in rap?
Cases when you do them, when it's on paper, and students. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're breaking up just a little bit.
Oh, it may be me.
No, now it's good, I think.
Oh, okay. Um, in rhythm, like when it's just different cadences, different flows,
Yeah,
different cadences. Like Shakespeare, the da 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 da.
yeah.
That's the example of a rhythm of a cadence.
So that's iambic.
That's pentameter. But even like the witches are like I believe they're like trochaic septameter,
Yeah,
septameter. Like um, fair is foul and five, 6, 7. Yes, I believe that's trochaic septameter. Like so the verse, the fact that he always each verse alternated between um, unstressed and stressed. Da 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 da. But different meters like and the past, like a word like happy, happy, sappy, da 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 da. So I mean, there's different cadences that you can use. When I tell them if they find a pattern, try to, they can find a way to stay with it. And also, Shakespeare added prefixes and suffixes to maintain the meter. He also contracted words to maintain a meter. So he kept the same context. The story didn't change. He added and subtracted syllables to keep the meter. The story kept going. And that's another connection that I have with Shakespeare and hip hop. I would love, to bend the language and still have it understandable. That's the creation of words, you know, and whenever I get my students to write, I tell them, eh, like if you have a language, like, and I know I keep going back to Hamlet, but there was no way. I don't want to say there's no way, but it's difficult to teach Hamlet to 5 and under, or 8. It's difficult to teach Hamlet to 8 and under. So what did we have to do? We had to use kiddie language to relate to young students. We had to use we have Shakespeare's plays in emojis. Like I have a version of Romeo and Juliet that just has emojis. I think it's called YOLO Juliet, where there's an understanding where I can't read all of Shakespeare's work, but I can understand the story more through the symbols. So that yeah, the yeah. Hope that answered it. Your
oh
question.
yeah, yeah. I was thinking about lines 11 and 12.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the iambic beat, of course,
Mm-hmm.
suggests movement, and
Mm-hmm.
and it makes total sense that line 11 should be in perfect iambic. I
Mm-hmm.
grant I never saw a goddess go da 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 da
Mm-hmm.
da da. And then look at what happens in line 12. My mistress, when she walks, treads. And there you've got a
Spondy.
break in the rhythm, a spondy, yeah. A,
Swandy.
a break in the rhythm, exactly,
The reverse
exactly,
nine.
exactly where he's saying she stumbles. So the
Mm-hmm.
rhythm is broken exactly on the syllable where he says she walks clumsily. But the dominant rhythm, which is in the background, is always, it's understood that the expected rhythm is I am.
Is yeah. Now,
Yeah.
now, when I say it, it's usually not, it's not always iambic pentameter. You know, he, the fact, I think, the most important thing that helps Shakespeare with the rhythm. Well, most of it, for the most part, it was meant to be put in iambic pentameter. But I believe as language has evolved, words have been, we have pronounced words differently. The fact that there's a pattern in the number of syllables in each line helps out with the cadence. And I mean, every actor gets the same would get this. 10 different actors get the same script. They would say it, different ways, different speeds, different cadences. Um, with this, I believe it's cool to transcribe to music. Like I could get students forget not even just rapping this. Like for instance, I have Hamlet to be or not to be, which is in verse. To be or not to be, but the fact that it's in verse, you're able to play with the language and speed up, space it out, speed it up. You can figure out the different phrases and like when she walks, like that's how I said it. When I rap out my mistress, when she walks, treads on the ground. Like I don't go da 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 da. My mistress when
Hmm.
she walks treads. I don't say it like that because of my accent.
Hmm.
And I tell students, Shakespeare and my I believe Shakespeare wrote that to keep the cadence, keep iambic pentameter. For me, and I say that iambic pentameter makes it easy to transcribe to a beat. But when it gets into that's why I wanted people to read it themselves. When people read it themselves, they get their own feel for how to say it. So I don't, I will, when working with it, my mistress, when she walks, treads on the ground, I would say it the way it would be said in iambic pentameter, and that's a way of teaching iambic pentameter. But if that's not the way a student or you would say it, in your accent or in your dialect, I would have you say it in your own way. But the fact that each line, the fact that it has a rhyme to it, this is a way of incorporating fine arts and having transcribed it to music. Whether rapping it like me, reading it like me, acting it out. You said providing some movement. Like for those who are teaching classes, if I was getting, because we're gonna do Sonnet 18 in a sec, but if we was acting classes and I wanted to turn this sonnet into a play, I can break this into a couple of groups, right? So we have our writers, we have our people who love writing. They can be responsible with doing the adaptation, how this is going to be presented. We have our people who love action, who love being on stage, who love acting. They can act out. They can act out these 14 lines. We have a group that like visual. They can use the chalkboard. They can write. They can draw up the playbill. They can draw up a poster of what Sonnet 13 would look like, or in their eyes. So you can have three different stations. This is a workshop that I've done with Stratford Shakespeare, and also I've done with Southern Shakespeare in Tallahassee. But so because for those who are teaching in the classroom, not everybody would like to write. Or if this is a theater classroom that's not you know fully focused on writing, and you want to just do a production or do a collaboration, this is another way of collaborating because they all have to discuss with each other, but they also would be in a field that they would like, whether it's the visual part, whether it's the adaptation, adaptive part, whether it's the part that you're acting out. And you can create a collaborative performance um, with that.